Claire first noticed the piano bench was missing. It was a small thing, almost forgettable. Except Eleanor never moved anything in her living room. The old walnut piano sat beneath the window, exactly as it had for 30 years. Polished even after her arthritis made polishing painful. The bench had always been centered perfectly beneath the keys. Now, there was a pale rectangle in the carpet where it used to sit. Her father was in the kitchen making coffee when she asked about it. "Guy came to look at the piano," he said casually. "Needed space to inspect underneath." Claire stopped in the doorway. "What, Guy?" Her father shrugged without turning around. "Just someone interested." Interested, not a mover, not a tuner, interested. Upstairs, hospice equipment hummed softly in Eleanor's bedroom. Claire had arrived from Chicago 2 days earlier. After the nurse warned the family it was probably time. Since then, relatives had been orbiting the house in careful voices and practical conversations. Medication schedules, funeral homes, property, always property. Megan arrived an hour later in a white SUV Claire didn't recognize. Their mother walked outside, smiling too brightly. "Oh, good, you finally picked it up." Claire looked from the car to Megan. Her sister avoided eye contact. "It's leased." But Claire already knew. That evening she sat beside Eleanor's bed while rain tapped softly against the windows. The old woman looked smaller every day, her hands folded carefully over a thin blanket. "You practicing anymore?" Eleanor asked suddenly. Claire smiled faintly. "Not really. You used to play when you were upset." "I used to be upset more quietly." Eleanor gave the smallest laugh at that, though it turned into coughing halfway through. Then her eyes moved toward the doorway. "The piano's still downstairs?" Claire hesitated. 1 second, maybe two, too long. Eleanor noticed immediately. "When did they move it?" Claire looked down at her hands. "Grandma, the room became painfully still. Hospice rooms had their own kind of silence. Not peaceful, just careful. Like every sound understood, it was interrupting something larger." "They sold it?" Eleanor asked. Claire nodded once. "For the car." Another nod. Eleanor closed her eyes. Claire expected anger, maybe tears. Instead, Eleanor looked almost embarrassed. Not for herself. For having predicted this years ago and hoping she'd been wrong. "They told me it wasn't a big deal," Claire said quietly, "that nobody played it anymore. That piano belonged to my mother before it belonged to me. I know, and I left it to you." Claire stared at her. "What?" Eleanor opened her eyes again. Even exhausted, they sharpened slightly. "In the will." Claire felt something heavy shift inside her chest. Not excitement, not vindication, just exhaustion suddenly finding a shape. "I didn't know." "They did." Downstairs, laughter drifted faintly from the kitchen. Megan's showing something on her phone, their father opening another bottle of wine. Eleanor listened to the sound for a moment. Then she said, "Hand me my phone." Claire reached for it from the nightstand. Her grandmother scrolled slowly through contacts with trembling fingers before pressing one. She waited through 2 rings. "Daniel," she said calmly when the line answered, "I think my children misunderstood what ownership means." Nothing dramatic followed. No screaming downstairs. No confrontation over dinner. The change arrived quietly over the next 48 hours. An attorney appeared at the house carrying a slim leather folder. Claire watched her father's posture change the moment he saw him. Her mother stopped using phrases like family misunderstanding. Apparently, Eleanor had updated her estate documents 6 years earlier. Apparently, the piano appraisal had been attached. Apparently, the transfer clause had been extremely clear. Claire stayed mostly out of the conversations. She listened from other rooms while words like unauthorized sale, designated inheritance, and restitution floated through the walls. Megan cornered her late one night near the back porch. "I didn't know," she said immediately. Claire believed her, which somehow made it worse. "You really thought they'd just decided to buy you a $95,000 SUV?" Claire asked. Megan crossed her arms against the cold. "Dad said they'd been planning it." Claire nodded slowly. Families built themselves around certain stories. Megan had spent years inside one, where generosity toward her felt normal and invisible. Claire had spent years inside another where losing things quietly was considered maturity. Neither of them had invented those roles, but they had both learned them. A week later, Eleanor died just before sunrise. The house felt strangely lighter afterward, as if everyone could finally stop pretending they were there for the same reasons. The legal process continued without Claire's involvement. The piano collector refused to reverse the purchase, though partial compensation was eventually arranged. Megan returned the SUV within 2 months. Their parents stopped calling except through attorneys. No explosive ending came. No final speech. Only distance. 3 months later, Claire received a package from Daniel, the attorney. Inside were old cassette recordings Eleanor had converted digitally years before. Recitals, practice sessions, fragments. Claire played one late at night in her apartment. The recording crackled softly before Eleanor began playing Debussy, slower than Claire remembered. Halfway through, she missed several notes and muttered, laughing faintly to herself. Then she started again without stopping the tape. Claire sat very still in the dark, listening to that small, imperfect moment. Not the performance, the continuation after the mistake. And for the first time in years, she understood what her grandmother had actually left her.